and welcome to my channel. My name is Mia and today we're going to be reviewing The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. This novel started when Mr. Strahan, I think is how you pronounce his name, asked Gaiman to make a short story. And he's had for a while now the Hemstock family in his mind and their farm and all of that. So he started writing the story. However, as he continued the writing of the story, he realized that it was not going to be a short story and decided to make it a novel. The Hemstock family has already been mentioned in a couple of his books, I believe in Stardust and definitely in The Graveyard Book as well. This novel has been dedicated to his wife Amanda, and also some of the events in this story are inspired by his real life. For example, there's a scene where the father of the main character gets his car stolen, and the person who stole the car ends up committing suicide. And it so happens that when Neil was a child, his father's car did get stolen, and the person that stole his car did commit suicide in the car. He does relate a few things from the story to his personal life, and I thought that was very neat because you get to know a little bit more about the writer while also enjoying the story. The story itself starts with an unnamed protagonist who returns to his hometown to assist a funeral. After the funeral, he decides to drive around, ends up at his old house where he grew up as a child, and winds up walking to the end of the lane where the Hemstock farm is. There he remembers a girl by the name of Letty Hemstock who used to claim that the pond at the back of her house was an ocean. And this memory begins to unravel a lot of other memories from his childhood of events that happened over 40 years ago. Those memories and those events are what the story is. When he was a child, he was around 7, he got into some mischief with Letty, and she and her family, which was her mom and her grandmother, helped him kind of get over the whole mess. During the story, you're not quite sure if Letty and her mom and her grandma are actually related by blood. You are also not sure what creature they are. You know for a fact they're not human, or it's very unlikely that they're human, but you don't really know what they are. There's a lot of mystery within the book, starting with the protagonist, who is unnamed. There is no name to him. So that makes it, in my opinion, very easy to relate to the protagonist of the story because it could be anybody. I absolutely loved this story, mostly because it brought back memories from my childhood, things that I swore back then I would never forget. And I hate to admit, but as I was reading the story, I realized that I had forgotten a lot of those things that as a child I swore I would never forget. Basically, the way of thinking of a child compared to the way of thinking of an adult. There was also a lot of very good quotes in the story as well that I really enjoyed. This book reminded me that I should definitely take more seriously kids' ideas and their opinions and what they say, because they're still people even though they're kids, and not just because they're little or smaller than you are, younger than you are, means that they're not wise, because there are definitely kids out there that are much wiser than grown adults and that are smarter than grown adults, even though they're still in their learning journey. I found this story to be pretty sad. There's a lot of very sad aspects to the story, and also somewhat nostalgic as well. It was a perfect read for the month of October. There's a lot of fantasy in the story, and there's a lot of dark monsters in the story, including the main monster, which changed or shaped form several times, and it went from like a piece of fabric or a cloth monster to this beautiful woman that ended up becoming the protagonist and his younger sister's babysitter, which also helped me remember that the fact that something looks a certain way on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it is on the inside. That's a very important message as well. I also found this book pretty scary. There were a lot of aspects of it that were very scary, like when you're trying to tell somebody that you need help and that things are not the way they seem and no one listens to you, I find that very, very scary because of the helplessness of it. So there were definitely a lot of very scary aspects to the story and a lot of mystery to the story as well. Overall, this being the second book that I've read for Neil Gaiman, I have to say I'm really becoming a big fan of the writer. I love his writing style. It's so easy to enjoy when you're reading it. It's easy to understand and it carries big messages. It touches a lot of very important topics and heavy topics. However, it is still just so easy to read. It's almost as if you were just listening to a story being told by somebody. Like, I don't know, it's just so easy and so brilliantly written that I'm starting to really become a fan of his, and I want to read all his books because I'm enjoying them so very much. This copy is actually not mine. It was given to me to borrow from a friend, so I will definitely buy my own copy because I know this is a book I'll read again and again and again because I loved it so much. It made me think of my childhood. It made me kind of miss it a lot. It made me wish I was a kid again. And it reminded me a lot of very important things that as you grow up you kind of start to forget because you let all the other things in life kind of take priority and you start to forget all those dreams and all of those thoughts you had when you were younger that are still very much a part of you and are still very important. So I really did love that about the book. And of course I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I recommend this book to all of you because I think anyone should read it. It's supposed to be an adult book, however it doesn't necessarily read like an adult book. It's still definitely worth reading it and you should totally read it. Also, the protagonist is a big fan of books. He loves reading books, which leads to another of my favorite quotes, which I don't remember entirely, but basically it's kind of like when reality becomes so tough to withstand and when reality gets just too difficult, bury yourself in a book, you know? And I love that. I love that I could relate so much to the protagonist. Like, it was impossible to not like him, in my opinion. So I enjoyed this book so very much. Loved this story. It had just the right amount of secrets. It had just the right amount of mystery. It was written in such a wonderful way because it was so easy to understand, so easy to relate to the protagonist and to the storyline and everything, yet it left you wondering. There's a few things that you just never really find out, and I think it actually works on this story. I thought it was just so brilliantly done that I cannot even complain. So if you have not read this book, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You have got to read it. I am such a fan now of the writer. I've only read 2 books, but I am such a fan. And let me know if you read this book, what you thought of it. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What was your favorite part of the book, quotes or whatnot, you know? Just leave me all your comments down below. I love when you interact with me. And I'll see you next time in another video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye!